Okay, if you're a subscriber to this channel, you know that I travel around the USA in 2 different vans at different times, and one of them now has a blown head gasket. And we've had several videos about that, and I'm going to show the final results. But one thing that hasn't been done, and hasn't been done very well by anybody else I could find, is giving people a really simple explanation of what a blown head gasket actually happens to be. So in this video, I'm going to do that for everyone who's not a master mechanic, show you exactly what happens and what causes it, and what this mystery thing actually is. Okay, if this is your first time here, welcome. This channel is basically about me traveling around the country, trying to show some interesting places and the vehicles I use to do that. But anyway, I now have a vehicle with a blown head gasket. Some of you may experience this in whatever vehicles, because it can happen to any vehicle at any time, regardless of age, regardless of value. One of the things that will cause it is an overheating issue, which I had, and sometimes they just simply fail. Some of the manufacturers have had issues with different ones they've made over the years. They fail prematurely. You spend all this money and have it redone, and they give you one made out of a different material. That's an obvious sign that they know they had a defect, but they aren't going to cover it for you, and you're going to be spending thousands of dollars. So let's talk about this miracle repair in a very simple form. What you have is an engine block that has your pistons, has your oil pan down at the bottom, has a crankshaft in it, and as your cylinders fire, those pistons go up and down, and that in turn turns the crank, which then goes to the transmission. It does its thing, follows it down, and actually makes the wheels turn, so you get to go down the highway. On top of a block, you have what are called heads, which have intake and exhaust valves that bounce up and down, opening at the correct time. So when air and fuel go into the chamber with the piston and become compressed, and the spark plug fires and makes it go boom, those valves opening at different times lets air in and then lets the gases escape and go on through your exhaust, through your muffler, and out behind your vehicle. So if you're with me there so far, what separates the block from the head is this mysterious head gasket. Now, if you don't know a lot about vehicles, and the mechanic hits you with this, and they make it out to be this huge deal, and they can charge this huge price for it, the actual head gasket is between about $50 and $200 for a head gasket set for most vehicles. You're going to get quoted probably $1,500 or more, and that's all going to be labor, because you're going to be paying $70 and up for somebody to take all the other parts off your car just to get down to it, removing the alternator and the drive belts and power steering pumps and everything else that's in the way in order to do this job. And then of course you're going to pay them $70 or more an hour to bolt all that stuff back on your car when they're done. But here's the basis of it. It looks something like this. It is about as thick as this piece of cardboard. It may be made out of plastic or some metallic material, some combination of the two, but this is basically all it is. It is a gasket, like this little one I have made out of cardboard. So if you can picture the block and this gasket sitting on top of it and the head bolting down on top of it, it's just the gasket that separates the two parts of the engine. These holes would be your pistons, and these little holes would be where the path of the antifreeze is supposed to go through the block and various parts of your engine in order to keep it cool. Now, because engines work off of a mixture of gas and air, and antifreeze to cool things down, you don't want those things mixing. That's what a head gasket keeps from happening. It keeps your antifreeze separated from your air and your fuel until it goes bad and is what is called being blown. There are several different ways this can happen. And a blown head gasket is simply part of this has given way. And now things that aren't supposed to be mixing together are mixing together and can cause a host of different problems. This little piece here blow out between these two cylinders where your pistons are, where this little red line is. If you imagine that blew out and was gone, now you have your air and fuel from one cylinder, your air and fuel from another cylinder, which are supposed to be separated, that now can get mixed up. And that's going to cause you some compression problems, which is going to basically cause you some power loss. You could end up blowing out on the side or the front or the back, somewhere around the edge, and that's probably going to cause you to have some leaks that would actually be leaking onto the outside of the engine that you could see. And again, blowing out between here and the outside, again, air can go in and out. It's going to cause compression problems and power loss. Where you get into this with the antifreeze is because it's supposed to be able to go only through these little ports. So now, let's say you blow out between this little port that antifreeze is going in and out, and this cylinder. Now you have antifreeze leaking going down in this cylinder, causing, again, problems with it firing, potentially power loss, different things. And you have the potential for oil to be coming out of here and now mixing with your antifreeze and causing it to, your antifreeze to turn brownish and get milky looking. You have the potential for your antifreeze to be getting in here and going down through your engine and getting into the oil pan. And now you're putting this sludgy oil and antifreeze mixture through the entire engine. And that's going to cause problems in the long run. This is also where you will get like a symptom that I have on mine, where you have the white, pretty constant, and sometimes a lot of it, what looks like smoke, white smoke coming out of the exhaust on your vehicle. Because now antifreeze is going to the wrong place and it's going on through your motor mixed with the air and fuel mixture that should be going out and going through the exhaust. You have the antifreeze mixed in with it and going through and burning off. So there are a lot of different things that can happen, and it doesn't matter which one of these different scenarios you have. This is simply what a blown head gasket is. And looking at it, you would not think it was that big a deal, and it really shouldn't be. Where it becomes a big deal is all the labor involved to pay a mechanic to get down to this dinky little gasket and replace it. And sometimes having a job like that done is more than the value of a vehicle if it's an older vehicle. You can also get into a problem where if you've had this and let it go and had an overheating issue, you could have a cracked block, you could have a cracked head, and once you're $1,000 or better into the repair that you think is going to be $1,500, now the mechanic comes back and says, oh, guess what? You have this other problem, and now you need another $700 head or another $2,000 block and blah, 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 and you end up with a $3,000 or $4,000 repair. Or you cut your losses at the $1,000 you already owe the mechanic and junk the vehicle. These are things that happen to people in everyday life all of the time. But at least now, if this happens to you or has happened to you and you're talking to a mechanic and they start throwing all of these terms at you, Hopefully, this will give you an idea of what they are actually talking about, what they're going to have to do to make that repair. And it's going to be your judgment call to make that repair or get rid of the vehicle. There is no real guarantee other than what the garage gives you as far as how long this repair is going to last. I have seen this happen to vehicles with 40,000 miles, 60,000 miles. Somebody's had this repair done and the vehicle's run for another 10 years with no more problems, and they've have another 200,000 miles on it, or the next person they sold it to, and it's absolutely fine. Then again, if it's just one of these vehicles where the design of this was bad to begin with, who knows? I know some General Motors vehicles, and I'm sure other brands have done this too, they have so many problems out of these things, the materials and the failure rate, that they actually change the material. So when you go and you buy your kit now, your official kit from the manufacturer, and you take it out, it's a completely different material, completely different design. These holes may be a different shape, or maybe larger, or maybe smaller, where they are at least trying to solve the problem. But what they don't do when they know they've made something that's defective like that, they're not going to admit to it and fix it for you. So either way, you're going to be dealing with a large repair, or a large headache, or just getting rid of the vehicle. Now, I am not any kind of master mechanic. I do not do this stuff for a living. While I have probably replaced every external engine part possible on vehicles over the years, since I was a kid and had my first car, I've never rebuilt an engine. I've watched it being done. I've never rebuilt a transmission. I am not, again, a master mechanic. And I hope because of that, I've been able to explain this simply so those of you that are not mechanical experts can understand what's going on. And if I've achieved that, then that was my goal, and I'm a happy guy. So if you're interested in other travel stuff and van-related stuff and building vans for travel, and then I hope you'll look at some of the other videos on the channel. If not, I hope you found this useful. If you have questions still yet, feel free to put them down in the comments. Let me know what you got out of the video. Take care of yourself.